So again, thank you for taking the time out. And here's Ray Tolentino from Infor.
All right. Well, thank you, Shane, and welcome everyone. And thanks for joining our overview of the Infor Service Management application. I'm happy to be working with Central Data Systems today, and we're going to be walking through the powerful features and capabilities of the Infor Service Management module. Now, this application is designed to provide a formal structure that'll help streamline your equipment service business and provide your service team with the tools they need to run an efficient service operation. And this module is fully integrated to the CloudSuite distribution ERP system. And here are the topics that we'll be covering today. We're going to start with our introduction to the service management application. We'll take you through a comprehensive day in a live scenario that shows how ISM seamlessly streamlines service operations from start to finish, and how we optimize efficiency, improve visibility, and ensure high customer satisfaction. And we'll see how incidents and work orders are generated. We'll then take a look at the scheduling and assignment of work orders to technicians, and these could be your engineers, your mechanics, and your service operators. Now, once those work orders are assigned, we'll see how technicians can update the work orders through the partner console and the mobile app, and then we'll also look at billing information and the integration to CloudSuite distribution. And then we'll end our time today with a look at the analytics. These are the reporting and dashboard tools that come with the service application. And as Shane mentioned, we can open up for Q&A before we end our time today. So let's begin with a big picture overview of the service management application. And as you can see, there are many features here that we won't have enough time to cover today. But let me highlight some of the features. The application provides robust work order management features. These allow you to create work orders when your customers ask for equipment service. It can start with a request for a quote. You'll be able to provide an estimate of the cost of parts and labor. You can send a copy of that quote to the customer by email and receive the approval and convert that quote to a formal work order. The application provides configurable service templates, and these will enable you to preset patterns of service. It could be by equipment, it could be by product line, or it could be by types of service. The benefit here is that you can pre-establish workflows for the different services that you offer your customers. And instead of starting from scratch each time, you can pull up a template of service transactions that are similar to the service being requested, and then you can set up the template for the steps to assemble, install, and even repair equipment that are being presented to you. The system will document those steps, identify the parts and material, as well as include the labor time expected to perform the service. Billing could be fixed. That could be tied to a contract or a set service that you offer your customers. Or it could be based on time and materials, calculating the parts and labor spent on the service. And we also have milestone or progressive billing. And these will be for projects that may take longer periods of time to complete. The service application also includes service scheduling and dispatching features. There's an online calendar-based scheduling tool, so the service manager, the service coordinator, or the customer service rep can see a colorized daily, weekly, or monthly view of work orders assigned to technicians. You can set up recurring appointments. You can modify schedules and reassign tasks where appropriate. And you can track the progress of work orders through the day, the week, and the month. And we'll see that in action today. The application will support operating centers where customers can drop off equipment for servicing and they can pick it up when ready, or you can ship the equipment back to the customer when the service is complete. The application also provides the functionality to support technicians who are dispatched to customer sites to perform equipment services in the field. The service app for mobile devices are also available, and technicians can access the work orders assigned to them, update information on parts and material used, and log how much time it took to complete. And included with that would be the ability to add notes, comments, take pictures. The mobile devices could be smartphones or tablets. For Apple users, you can download the app from the App Store. Just search for Infor and search for the Service app. For those using Android devices, you can download the Infor Service app from Google Play. And these apps are connected to the back office in real time. There are also warranty management features included with the service application. So we track manufacturer's warranty, and if you perform services on equipment with active warranties, there's a full process for submitting your claims to the manufacturer for labor and part use, and there's the reconciling credits that manufacturers may provide in the system. The call center features also provide you with the ability to enter incidents and work orders for service calls that you get from your customers. And this can be used by customer service or service coordinators to log issues reported by customers and to generate work orders for equipment service requests. There is a knowledge base included with this application, which is updated with known equipment issues, problems, and failures. And you can also look at resolutions and corrective steps performed in the past. This knowledge base allows you to leverage the saved information and use it for similar issues reported by your customers. So that's a quick big picture overview of these features of the service management module. Let's go to the live application. Now, this is a cloud-based system, and I've logged into the application using my laptop, and you can see the URL address at the top. And what we're looking at here is the landing page based on my profile as a user of the service management module. Now, in my role as a service manager, or I could be an executive, this role-based workspace provides a personalized and efficient, the data-rich working environment. It really is designed to help improve productivity. It gives you better decision making and enhanced collaboration within your enterprise so that you can drive operational excellence. And as you can see in this example, there are a variety of widgets that provide some important data. What is my total revenue? You look at the widget at the top. What's my total revenue for the service operation month to date? What is my total service utilization, for example? So what is billed and what is recorded as the work that was performed in the services? How many open work orders do we have? And you can see some live stats here as I move my cursor over there. You can see some trending information on whether we are down from last year, as well as whether we are trending up from last year comparison. So closed orders, I can see revenue, for example, on service contracts and the renewal percentage. I can see widgets on planned versus actual labor. I can see margin percentage analysis that you could also then look at, and then, of course, so see where you are and the health of your service operation. Now, near the bottom of the screen here, I can see my task and alert list. These are real-time actionable notifications on operational metrics, some KPIs, and status changes, and more. Now, this one is asking for a director approval for a purchase order. When I click on that, it gives me that little bit of a window to show me the task that is reminding me that there was a purchase order for a service that is going to be costing us about $14,000. And it's asking me now to approve that purchase order to make sure that we get the service approved. What the system is doing is it's tracking any of the purchasing that you're doing for service. And if it goes over the threshold that you set, then a director approval will be required to get that purchase order approved. You can also have alerts, for example. This one's looking for a new customer. There's also an order that was processed for a customer that needs some kind of approval. I also have document management widgets that give me a view, for example, for service invoices. If I click on this invoice, for example, it gives me the details of this invoice that I may want to be able to resend to the customer if they didn't get it. Those system-generated documents will be part of what would be available to me, and then, of course, will be part of that widget. those documents. If I scroll to the right here, I can take a look at service inspections. If you did inspection for services, I can also review the documents that were generated by the system and also pass that on to the customer, and it'll be part of the record that was performed for the customer in this application. Some notification list as well. If I look at this, there could be some collaboration with the sales team, for example, on the services that we're performing. And so the sales team could also be partnered with you in making decisions for the customers when they ask for service. So again, this tool here, this role-based workspace, is configurable and could be tailored to be personalized to the role of the user. So this landing page will be very important as you then go into the application. Let me go into the actual application itself, the Infor Service Management module. We're looking at the calendar scheduling screen. I'm going to go through this review with you, but let me start by going into the activities here and actually create a work order or an incident that we can actually add in. This is the order entry program in the service management system. So when a customer calls in, emails a request for service, I could go in here, I could log in. If I'm in customer service, I could log in as customer service. I could then go in and identify the customer who's on the phone, and then of course search for the customer record in the system. We found Acme Systems. It verifies that. That green check mark indicates that they're in good credit standing. If that was a red X, that means that they're on hold and perhaps may have some issues with AR, and I can refer them to the accounts receivable team to be able to resolve those issues. When I pull down the contact information section, this will now give me a view of the people that we normally deal with at Acme Systems, and it's John Carpenter on the phone this time, and it picks up his email address, his phone number. If it was a new person, then I can simply collect the information. It'll add it automatically to the contact file for this customer. Now I can go and take a look at what equipment this customer owns. When I pull down this little window, it actually displays for me all of the equipment that this customer owns, that we support, and that the customer may be asking for the service on. So what I can do here now is verify what equipment the customer is asking for service, and I can go down here and take a look at the information there. And if they're looking for service, for example, for this equipment with that serial number, I can then put that into the file there. I could also drill down into that information and get more details on that if I wanted to. So if I do the details, it takes me into the record for this equipment. I can see that it's owned by Acme Systems. I can take a look at some of the service history of it. I can go into the configuration of the equipment and take a look at the different components and the warranty that may be active for the components and the actual equipment for this customer. So what is the customer asking us to do this time? Well, there's a problem with this equipment. So there is I can say, damaged blower, and so the problem is there's a loud noise when running. So again, the customer could be very descriptive in the problem that we're looking at. And what does the customer want us to do? Well, they want us to create the work order, dispatch a technician to be able to fix this equipment. I could now take a look at some of the general reasons and see if there are similar issues that we may have done in the past based on failures that we see here. And so maybe there's a damage there, maybe there's a loud noise. That could be very similar. That would help the technician perform the service when they get to the customer site. When I click OK, that incident will then be generated in the system. It'll take me now into the work order, where I can now take a look at this work order, add additional notes if needed. The template that I was talking about earlier would be break, fix, and repair. And you notice there's a service and repair operation on the bottom right of the screen. If this was a more of an equipment a service, for example, for installation and replacement, you'll notice when I select that template, the information on the bottom right increases to display what I need to do to be able to perform a replacement of an equipment. In this case, we're doing a break, fix, and repair, so we'll leave it at that. I simply click OK, and what the system then will do is create that work order and allow me now to be able to assign that to a technician. So that work order now is now being generated, and it'll now go ahead and set that up for me when I go back into my calendar scheduling screen. The system now will display that work order in the bottom under the To Be Scheduled tab. The work order that I just entered a few seconds ago, damaged blower for Acme Systems, is now ready to be assigned to a technician. And I'm looking at a weekly calendar now in the scheduling calendar. So I'm looking at the week of Sunday, September 28, to Saturday, October 4, and today is Thursday, the 2nd of October. And so I can see technicians were available. You can see the color coding of the work orders assigned to them. On the daily columns, you can see the names of the technicians in this group that are assigned with the work orders that they perform. There are some color coding as well for the work orders, and as I move my cursor over, I can see some of the work orders that have been assigned, and I can see some status on the appointment. This one has been rejected. If I move into this one, if you look at the second row in that window, this one has been completed. If I move into this one is work in process. And then, of course, if I move into the orange ones, this one is actually new and haven't been started yet. So what I can do now, of course, is I can take a look at this week if there's a technician who's available. Next week, you notice that all of the work orders in this window here for the week are all in orange, and that's because they haven't been worked on yet. They're new as they were assigned to the technician. What I can do here now is I can actually take this work order that's been just entered, and I can drag it over to Barney Fowler. He has some time this afternoon. I can add additional notes on a work order. I can click OK. And what the system then will do is allow Barney now to be able to see that work order assigned to him. He can go into what we call the partner console to be able to update that, or use the mobile device to be able to get into that work order as he gets into that time of the day. Now, this calendar here could be a weekly view. We're looking at a weekly view, but I could also take a look at a monthly view. So now we're looking at the view for the month of September. If you look at it, the colors are mostly lavender, which means that they have all been updated and completed. If I go to the next month, for example, it'll show many of that are in orange because they're still ready to be worked on by the technicians. I can go back to the Partners Week view, and I like this view because it actually gives me the ability to be able to go in there and be able to take up the 24-hour clock. I know who's working overtime. I can see who's working on the weekends, but I can also take a look at a timeline week view. Now, different view, the technicians are on the left and the work orders are in the middle. And then, of course, I can go ahead and change those as needed. One of the things that you can do here is you can assign or reassign work if Sally or Phil calls in and says he won't be able to come in tomorrow. Well, I can simply click and drag that over to Gary, and Gary then will be able to pick up that work order as needed. We do have some automated dispatching functions in the tool. If you look at the To Be Scheduled tab, I have dozens and perhaps even hundreds of work orders that have been received by customer service that need to be assigned to a technician. But that also implies that I need to know the skills of each technician. I know what product lines they're able to perform service on. What the system will do for you is that we keep track of the skills of each technician. Can they do electrical work? Can they do installation? Can they do mechanical work? And what kind of licensing and certification do they carry to empower them, and of course to allow them to be certified to be able to work on those? So we keep a record of all that information in the system. So each technician, their profile, their abilities and skills. And what the system will do when we do the automated dispatching, it'll take the list of all the work orders that haven't been assigned yet. It'll find a free time for the technician who is appropriate to perform the service, and then automatically assign those work orders to the right technician. You can then go ahead and at that time, if there's any kind of changes that you need to do, you can reassign it. You can expand the time. or shorten the time as needed. And then you can also change any of the information related to that work order as a service manager or service coordinator. So you have the full power, being able to control the management of these tasks to the technicians. One of the tools, of course, that you have also would be for the partner console, where the technician could log in. They could, if they were in the shop center and they were logging into a workstation in the branch, they can log into the system. They can pick up the work orders that they want to be able to work on, and they can now go ahead and log into that. They can pick up the line and then the operation of that work order. They can do a clock in or clock out on this to be able to start the clock on it. They could also now go ahead and add parts and labor to the order, and then be able to manage the transaction that way. So each entry for parts, labor could be done on this. You can go through an inspection list of things that the technicians will need to perform. If there's a repair item, they can check for damages, they can check for leaks, electrical problems, some load and balancing pressures, and it'll indicate what they found, what is expected, and then these inspection tasks could be performed and could also then be managed so that they could get an inspection sign-off from the customer, be able to sign the work, looking at all the work that was done, and then of course be able to accept that and then be able to manage that from within the application here. So there's a lot of tools within the application to record the work that's being performed by each technician. What I'd like to show you, though, would be the mobile app that is available. And I'm going to go ahead and render this on screen here. So just going to put in the code. I apologize in advance if I get any kind of call or messages flowing through, because this is a live app. But as I now display the mobile app here, let me just drag it into my screen so that you can see it. Here we go. So now I can go into the Infor folder, and then of course go into the Service Management app. Now you notice my mobile phone is also checking my facial recognition. It'll log me into the mobile app automatically. It now presents the two work orders that I need to work on today, Thursday, the 2nd of October. And when I enter into that work order, that work order that we just entered a few minutes ago, the damaged blower, when I tap in on that, I can actually go and see the customer. Customer's Acme Systems. When I tap in on that, it gives me information about this customer. This is a live link to the back office, so I can see how many appointments we've made with this customer, who are the contacts that we have with them. I can go into the units and I can review all of the equipment that we service for this customer, when it was installed, if there's any kind of warranty or contract active with it. And then, of course, I can go now if this customer, if I tap in on the address, the system will actually trigger the GPS on my phone app and direct me to the location for the customer. Because I'm using a phone, I can also tap on the phone number. I can call John and let him know I'll be there within 15 minutes and then be able to work on the problem. And I can also change the status of this work order. I can say that I could now go ahead that I've arrived on site. I would start working on it. That color will change in the calendar as well. I can see the equipment that I need to service. When I tap on the description of the equipment, it gives me the details of the actual unit, the serial number, and the unique information and configuration of this equipment, any components that are installed and part of the equipment. I can see any kind of incidents and service history that we've had on this transaction. I can go back in there and take a look at some of the issues that were reported, see if they will impact what I'm doing today. And then I could also go in and clock in as I start the job. This will then start the recording so that we have an elapsed time of the work that I'm doing for this customer. Then I could go in and take a look at the the eyeball on the left of the description, when I tap it on that, notice it gives me a list of inspections that I need to do on this work order. Because the work order is for service and repair, part of the inspection list that you can configure based on the service being requested would be a list of questions. Is there damage to the equipment? Yes or no? And if there is a damage, did I go ahead and fix it? So the adjusted value would allow me then to say that I've fixed the damage to the equipment. I could add my notes to it. The inspection list could be answered with a yes or no, or it could be pass or fail. Is there a leak in the equipment, for example? There's none, so it passed it. What about the electrical wiring? Yes, there's a little bit of a failure there. I'm going to fix the wiring on that, maybe replace some of the failing wires on the equipment, and then I would indicate that as well. I could go into my notes here. I could now go ahead and identify, for example, what notes, just add my notes. I could key in the note using my small keyboard here, or because I have a microphone, I can simply tap on the microphone, fixed the wiring problem in the equipment. And of course, the technician could be as descriptive as needed to be able to describe the work that was done. I can now go in and then continue my inspection. It could be yes or no, pass or fail, or it could be a measure that we need to balance. Maybe I need to have a gauge that will check a voltage or any kind of pressure on that. It'll tell me what the expected value will be, and when I check it, what value did I find? And if it's below the expected value, it'll give me a red X, which means that I need to fix it. And in the adjusted value, I can then indicate what the new value will be after I did the repair. And then I could go ahead and add my notes on that as well. What about the pressure, for example, on the valve or the component? I could say that the expected value is 200. My measured value is 200, and that gives me the check mark there, which indicates that that is a good value. And then, of course, that completes my inspection and the repair that I've done during the repair of the equipment. That inspection list will now, of course, be part of the record for this work order. And as you saw earlier in the workspace, I was able to refer back to that inspection as well. So here I can now go ahead and log the labor. If I needed to log labor time, I can go in here. My work code could be a table of things that you are going to be providing, and the technician then could then identify the work that was performed. I did 3 hours of work, and is that also the hours that we will bill the customer? I could add additional notes on that and be able to log the parts that we've included. I could also add parts that we replaced. So if I'm looking at now parts that we're replacing, I could go ahead and search for an item. I could use the scanner to be able to do that, or I could go ahead and search for an item that I'm going to be using to replace a part that failed. So when I do a search, it'll go back and find the actual part, take the price and the cost of that. When I select that, it'll then go ahead and allow me to enter how many units or quantity did I use for this service. And if I just used one, I can say done. That will now be saved into this work order, and then will also be recorded in the back office system. I could add additional notes and information on it. And then, of course, what I can also do now, if you allow your technicians, I can go into the invoice and payment. It'll give me a summary of what we've done so far, the labor time that we spent on it, what that would cost, the item that we replaced. So there's a 2,200 invoice that would be pending there. I could actually hit the invoice button, and if they're ready to pay by credit card, the technician could use the mobile device to be able to accept payment on that. So it'll give me an option to pay now or pay later. If I say pay later, that would be an invoice that will be sent to the customer. They'll send us a check. And in most cases, that is what you're going to do if they have an account with you. And I can see the invoice here. I can also ask them for a signature to make sure that the information is there. And then, of course, what the name is, who signed for this one. And I can put my title. And then, of course, once that's done, that invoice now will be generated, and I can say pay later. and the system then will go ahead and prepare the invoice for the customer in the back office. If you needed to do a coordinator review before you get that done, then of course that will be workflows that you can set up in the system. Once I'm done, I can go back in here. Oh, by the way, before I do that, one of the things that you can do is you can go in here and you can take a look at attachments. And the attachments are the ability, for example, to take pictures. And I can enable my camera on my phone here. Just going to go into my workstation here, take a picture of my laptop. This could be the picture of the equipment before, during, and after the service. I can take multiple pictures that will then be recorded in the work order and that will be part of the history. So 6 months from now, if I needed to take a look at what happened to this work order, I can review it and the system will be able to do that. Once I'm done and I'm cleaning up, I can go ahead and change the status on this work order to complete. Please clock out first because I did clock in earlier. So it's reminding me that I need to clock out before I can change the status. Now that's done. I can go ahead and change the status of that and then be able now to go ahead and complete this work order. When I do complete, you'll notice it finishes off the work order and takes it off my list, and I'm ready to work on the next work order for this that has been assigned to me. So that is the mobile device and the powerful tools that you have there that'll allow you to be able to work with the work orders. And of course, we were able to see that for a technician who was dispatched to a customer site. But you can also use that mobile device, whether you were in a shop center. Your technicians could take pictures of trucks or equipment that you're working on, and then, of course, be able to record all of that information within the system. When I go back in here now and I refresh my calendar, you'll notice that work order has changed into lavender or purple because that status has now been complete. If I wanted to go in there and review that in the back office, maybe I'm a service coordinator, I can take a look at that work order for the damaged blower. I can see, of course, the customer. And then, of course, I can do the billing and set the invoice for this customer. I can go into the transactions and review what was posted under the material tab. Here is the item that we used to replace that failing part. If I go to the labor tab, then I can see the mechanical time that we spent of 3 hours. And it also recorded the elapsed time when I clocked in and clocked out. And the system will give me a cost price summary so far of what we've done based on the price, what the total price will be, what kind of margin we're making, the cost of it, and the price, and they'll record that. And we have a nice, healthy margin of 54% for this work order. So again, you're recording the information on this, and then you're getting the profitability as well on the work order that you performed for the customer. One of the other things I also wanted to be able to show you, and I know that our time is running out, but part of the information that we have here that I just wanted to review before we go into our reporting and dashboards would be the information on the units. And we showed you this earlier, where I could actually go in based on the item, and this would be a filter tool that I could go in here, and I could also look for a specific customer and then be able to review all of the units that the customer owns, and it displays it on the list that you see here. So the one that we were working on was this unit with the serial number, and I can now see the service history of the work performed, and then of course the information that we've posted in that. It's in the ascending order, so the damaged blower is the last work order that we performed for this unit. I can take a look at the configuration of it. If I changed any component in this equipment, this configuration will change to add anything that I replaced, and then of course the new parts that I've added, and if there's any kind of warranty related to any of these components, it'll also include that information for me to review. So I have a full history of all the work we've done on each unit of equipment for the customer, and that will remain in the system, as well as the information on the work orders that we performed there. When I go into the notes and attachments, you'll notice that now it showed that picture that I took when I was using the mobile device. And again, that'll be part of the history of this work order that will be retained in the system for you to use. One of the last things I wanted to show you before we enter time today would be the analytics in the application. And we do have configured reports and dashboards that are part of the service management application. And as I go in here, I can see, for example, under the services order column, I can see what kind of margin we're making, the total revenue year to date, service utilization, total labor cost, and total materials. When I drill into that, it'll go into the SRO, and so SRO would mean a service request order. And so the analysis of all of the services that we performed, the total revenue that you can see here, that red arrow pointing down, it tells us that we're trending lower than we had with the transactions that we processed last year. Same thing with the margin, and then the margin percentage and so on. I can see the service utilization, the number of open work orders, number of closed work orders, number of quotes that we need to process, those that are awaiting parts and those that need to be scheduled. And then I can see, for example, the margin current versus last year. I can see the margin percentage current versus last year. And I can see the total price trend by year by month, open versus closed. And as I drill down further here, when I go into the summary, it'll also give me now my top performers, or my top customers, for example, that we did a service for, who are my top technicians. In this application, we call them partners. They could be engineers or technicians or mechanics, and I can see their performance, say, for example, the month to date or year to date. I can see my top 5 departments, my top 5 warehouses or branches that are in the application. And you can see a whole host of other reports and tools here. I can go into the labor analysis. I can see the performance, for example, on labor. So hours worked versus hours to bill, the actual versus planned by operation, posted hours bill versus hours worked by year, by month, where we're trending up or downward, and then the total labor cost, the number of hours worked, number of hours billed, the service utilization, comparing those two, the total posted hours worked and posted billed. So again, information here that you can go into. And as I go into the details of that, when I go into the labor detail, I can now see the details on the work orders that were performed, recorded in the service by customer, by technician, and the kind of service that's performed. And I can do a filter tool here. I can use my filter tool to perhaps look at a specific technician. So if I'm looking at Barney Fowler, I select Barney Fowler from the list, click on apply, and then the list now of all the work orders are the ones that were assigned to Barney that he worked on. And I can also continue to filter that further. If I wanted to be able to see the year by month, for example, I can select that. Maybe I want to go back to 2021, and I've used that filter and select the month of March and see what Barney did for the month of March in 2021. Now it shows me the details of all the work orders he performed, the customers that he worked with. Now I can see the number of the information on each work order, how they were billed, the time spent on them. I can see the total posted hours. And then as I move to the right, I can see the total revenue on each work order that were posted back in March of 2021. And I can see that the total revenue that Barney did for us for service for that month was $147,000 of revenue coming in through the service. Now, what can I do with this? What I can do here is I can go ahead and even export this document into a PDF file. I can export it into an Excel file, or I can even create a notification that would be sending this report automatically. This notification could be emailed and scheduled on a date and time. So if you're doing this and maybe you're repeating this on a daily or weekly basis, if you want this to be a monthly report that would be sent out perhaps to Barney or maybe the customer, then I can do this. I can schedule the date, the time when this report will be generated, and then be sent to Barney or the customer where that is needed. And then, of course, they can now go ahead, and if I'm done with that, I can remove the links there. It'll go back to the regular list of the labor details on that report. I could also now go into the material analysis and how are we doing with the profitability on the parts and material that we used for service? Well, we keep track of that too. So now we're looking at cost price comparison for all the parts and material that we used for service and what kind of margin are we making? Who are my top technicians and the products that we sold? And what are the products and services that we posted, for example, my top branches as well. So what is the total material revenue for all of the service work orders year to date, total margin that we're making, the margin percentage on the parts that we used. And so what this is giving us is the ability, of course, to identify the profitability of our service operation, both in the labor and in the material side of our operation. And again, I can do those filters to be able to get the information I'm looking for. And then the system will provide you with the information that you need to be able to manage all of those. So those are the reports and dashboards that are available in the Infor Service Management application. It comes with the application when you deploy it in your operation. It is fully integrated into the CloudSuite distribution system. And in fact, if I go in here, if I go into that damaged blower, and I want to see the OE record in CloudSuite distribution, I can go into the SXE order inquiry. It takes me into that order, allows me to see, for example, the lines that were posted. It's now in ship stage because we completed the order. The line detail shows, the work that we did. There's a mechanical work order. There's a part that we used. And there was also part of the template that included a tear down for the damage that was part of it. And so now you can see the total order, what is invoice to the customer, and now we're going to be waiting for the payment from the customer when they receive the invoice. So that wraps up our big picture overview of the service management application. We're going to leave some time now for questions and for things that Shane might want to introduce as well. So are there any questions that we can answer?
Yeah, thank you, Ray. That was a lot. Thanks for packing it all in there. I do have a question here. It's from Subi. He says, "Hello, we are currently getting ready to go live on ISM. I was wondering if the ION workflow can be connected to ISM. The scenario is a warranty service where the technician arrives to a site to find the warranty has been voided, but unit is repairable. However, the service manager needs to be flagged to get on a call with the customer to get approval and collect a credit card."
Right. Okay. So what triggers that notification to go to the for approval? Is that the technician identifying that exception and sending a notification? We can certainly use the workflow tools within the application, and that requires a little bit of some work there. So in the operating service platform, when you go to the ION tools, we do have access to the workflow and monitor functions. And here you can actually go into the workflow tools and build your own notification. There are some examples here already. I'm just going to go through a search here just to give you a picture of what that workflow could look like. So it could be a workflow where you then identify what the trigger is, what the notification will need to be done, and then in the notification, you identify who will be receiving that. So under the distribution tab, you will identify who the service manager is, perhaps the service coordinator. What are some of the actions that will be needed? Are you going to be approving or rejecting this? And maybe that's your request, but what will be the content of the information that you're passing on to the service manager? So you'll include the data. And then, of course, what happens when it's approved? Do we send notifications? Do we release it, and so on? So defining the workflow really is, and the trigger is going to be key for you to be able to use this tool. But this tool is going to be available for you to be able to manage those. And as you saw in the workspaces earlier, there are some task lists and alert lists that will then, of course, be the way that you could transfer that information to the right person or to the right team so that they can respond to it. So you think of the process, what will be the trigger for the work or the workflow that will be sent and the information that you will be sending. So that will require more review, and of course, someone who would then be able to build and test the workflow, maybe in your test and company, be able to build those workflows and try it out and see how they perform. You'll have to set the trigger, and then of course the actual transaction that would require a response, and then you'll see that flow through a task list or the alert list using those workflow tools. There's more work that's needed to be able to put those all together, though.
Thank you, Ray.
Hopefully,
That was a fantastic response, according to Subi.
thank you.
If there's any other questions, you can drop them into the chat or the Q&A. As I mentioned earlier, for those on the call who want to watch this or share it with others on their team, this was recorded and it will be out to Central Data TV probably later today or tomorrow. Ray, is there anything else related to a project or an implementation, and how does that typically go? Do you need to define specific requirements? Is there a deeper dive discovery? Kind of walk me through what it would look like if we have an account that was interested in learning a little bit more.
Yeah, so if it's an account that wants to learn more, then of course we need to understand what the requirements are. What do they do today? What type of equipment and services they perform? How many technicians do they have? Is it centralized? If they have multiple branches, are they regionalized so that there's a service manager for a group of branches in a certain region of the country? So Midwest, the East, and so on. And how are they being reported? Who's assigning it? Or the coordinators? What type of work is performed? The materials and the labor that's being posted, the kind of service that they perform. Are you installing equipment after you sell them to the customer? Are those installation work orders generated and then assigned to technicians who will then be able to perform the installation and assembly? And then after the customer has owned that equipment for a few months, if there's a problem with it and they call for service, what team will then perform the services for that? So do you have technicians who are assigned to installation? Do you have technicians assigned to maintenance, service, and repair, and so on? And so we'll need to know all that information to be able then to focus on the different functions available within the application, so that we can then show you how it works, and then you can see how it would be used in your operation. So a discovery will need to be done before we do a demo, and then we will tailor the demo based on your requirements and based on your needs.
That's great. Well, I don't see any other questions, Ray. Thank you again for the very detailed but brief introduction. As we discussed, if there's folks on the call that would like to have a follow-up conversation with Ray, know that I can coordinate that and we can schedule what those next steps look like. But thank you again, Ray, for taking the time. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.